You know, sometimes I sit back late and I just think about the things that we ask for, the blessings, if you will, and how so many of the things that we've wanted in life, if you just got them, you wouldn't really appreciate it, and you probably wouldn't be able to truly operate. Like, I go back and forth all the time. Sometimes, and I don't know if this is healthy. And if I were talking to someone, I would tell them that it's not. But I'm just being honest with you. I think about it all the time. What if I didn't waste all this money and time and going to college, going to graduate school? I probably spent the first 40 years of my life. I wanted to be a shining beacon for my family. I wanted to be a young man that my mom and dad would be proud of. I wanted to be somebody that my siblings would be honored to be like, that's my brother. I wanted to be a man that my friends would be like, that's my guy. And, lately sometimes I sit back and I'm like, well, I did all those honorable things. Don't really feel much honor up from it though. I had a heart to heart with a teacher this school year. She was kind of feeling down about the role, the difference she was making. And, I told her at the end of the day, when it comes to education, when it comes to this work, a lot of what we're doing, man, it's about inside. I said, look at me. I got 2 master's degrees, all the experience that you could possibly ask for, and I'm a substitute teacher. I've been called a disappointment by people that I love and covet. But I've also been warmly received by strangers. So I say all that to say, regardless where you're sitting, where you're looking at it from, it's not easy. And it always looks like the grass is greener in the other yard. Sometimes that ain't even grass, man. Sometimes that's turf or sod. When they just put the grass down, they didn't take the time to actually make it. They didn't cultivate it, But one of the things I interviewed to work at a Catholic school as well as I think a Presbyterian school as well. And when you're doing these interviews, it's a little different than public school and typical interviews because they talk about your spirituality, your faith journey. And, one of the things that I told them is, I fight with this at times. I've had honest conversations with God where I'm like, you know what? If you're not going to allow me to do what I've prepared and built myself up to do, then take me out of here. I don't want this. Give this time to someone else. Let them be more of use, but don't waste me. But here's the thing. None of my life has been a waste. You see, there's a reason why I walk into a classroom and can engage with young people like nobody else. Because most teachers went to college and they went to the classroom. So that's all they got to offer is knowledge. They don't really have much lived experience. But when I walk into a classroom, it's not just a school counselor, because I was actually never a teacher, even though I do say I teach. Because I have a lot of experiences paired with my knowledge, just gives me wisdom to share. Because when I walk in a classroom, you're talking to a licensed banker, formally, but I did that job for quite a few years. You're talking to a college advisor who did the work with just experience and passion before I got my first master's degree. You're talking to a first lieutenant. So what if I never went to war? You ain't never been to basic training. Shut up. You know what I'm saying? Like, all those things that I carry with me is what shows up and why I offer something such differently than everyone else. Because I got real experience, real education, real wisdom this year. And that wasn't by chance. That's because I purposely walked through so many doors to make me the man I am. That doesn't happen by chance. That happens by strategic operation. Okay? And I think if I didn't have the degrees, if I didn't have these experiences, I didn't like the Justin when I was 18. I'll be honest. I wasn't happy with who that guy was. I'm happy at where I've arrived, what I've evolved into. Everyone else may not be, but I don't care. I mean, to be honest, most of them that got something to say, I don't really like what you're doing either. So, we're even there, But to live a life with intention isn't easy. I've had some people say to me, if you had a child, you would settle down more, you'd be more on point. BS. Parenting doesn't make you on point. Parenting makes you settle. Because most people, when they have their regrets, they wish they could have done more, they didn't, often because they settled to provide for a family. And I'm not saying settled is a bad thing. I'm just saying it is what it is. Like, for example, perhaps one of the previous jobs I worked, which would have been great careers for many people, including maybe me, probably would have stayed at that career. If I would have gotten a child while I was working as a banker, I'd probably still be a banker. I wouldn't have moved on. If I'd have gotten a child when I was working as a school counselor in Carolina, would have stayed there. If I would have had a child while I was a career advisor with the SUNY Bronx COC, I would have just stayed there. But I don't have kids. And so I do have the ability and the opportunity to hunger and challenge for more. But I'll tell you something. As I listen to people tell their stories, as you read people's biopics, this is just something that I think anyone that became anything can relate to. It's hard when you're building it, but that is the journey. That is the experience. If you just hit the lotto one day and had all this money and you can go and buy your fat house and sit up there, cool. You know what's going to give me joy if I ever become that? It's going to be remembering these bad moments when I financially, I didn't have much. And people around me have more and they ain't done as much as me. But, to God give them the glory. They got it. And that's cool. But when we arrive, and we always do, if we stay focused long enough, that's where those tears come from. You listen to people give these great speeches at awards. You think they just showed up and did a movie? No. They had countless movies that they were denied. Plenty of people told them quit, but they kept going. That's what makes that speech so strong. That's what makes for a real testimony, is going through real life. Most people won't experience real life because I'm going to tell you something. We're all going to die. The problem is most people haven't lived. Because to live is to take risks and to take chances. And most people minimize it. They play it safe. And I'm going to tell you, I've seen enough people play it safe and still mess up. That I won't. It is a calculated risk. I'm not out here being crazy. I'm just trying to mentor and support men. Give people the support that I needed. I told you guys I had that 6-hour conversation with my dad. One of the things that came up in that conversation, and I guess it was a fit of rage, but I said it plainly. I needed somebody with knowledge of where I was going. You didn't have it because you hadn't gotten to this point. And yeah, those words can cut a little harshly, and I didn't mean to offend my father, but sometimes the truth needs to be spoken. Something you probably don't know about me. When I was in college, I wanted to be a sports agent. I did. I wanted to be a sports agent. I worked with a man, Mr. Levy, was interested in possibly interning under him, but at least back then, I don't know what's changed. I haven't really paid attention to the industry since. But getting into that position required me shadowing and working under somebody, but not being paid. And coming out of college, that was a big issue for me. You see, I've been paying rent and all these things since I'm about 19, 20 years old. I literally would have dropped out of college had I not moved into an apartment with my girlfriend at the time. And so I've been paying my way for more than half my life. Because I said 19, I'm 40 years old. That's 21 years, not 20. And I don't complain. I don't. I realize my position. And my roommates have only been women, so I've been doing it on my own. But back to the point that I was making. I needed somebody that could just talk to me. And I think I literally told him, all I needed was somebody to say, Justin, keep going to school, which ironically I did anyway, just much later down the line. Keep going to school, take out loans, live off the loans, and work under the man. By the time you graduate, you'll make enough money to pay all this stuff off and more. But here's the reality. Either people didn't know or they weren't comfortable putting that on me. Because one of the things that I realize is that sometimes people want you to do good, they just don't want you to do better than them. That's a sad reality. And everybody's not like that. And sometimes you can't tell who's who. But it takes a lot of humility for somebody to come in front of you, look at you and see you and acknowledge how great you are. And sometimes how much greater you are than them. Like one of the things that I told my mentee Edgardo, I said when I was proud of him, like you are lined up to have a great life. One of the biggest burdens that I've had, we eliminated for you, right? There is no worrying about how you pay for school. I told you that moved me off the campus. That made things a little complicated for me. Right? He won't have to worry about that. When he graduates and he's trying to navigate different career opportunities, I'll be here. God willing, I'll be here. You won't have to worry about that. You just have to talk about it. Because I'll be here to receive you and support you as much as you'll let me. How different my life would have been if I had somebody that I could have just opened up to and not have to police my words, not have to worry. You know, it's like stepping on eggshells, and it shouldn't be that way. And so if you're a parent and you really want to be there for your kids, make sure you listen to them and don't just hear them. Do you understand the difference between listening and hearing? Hearing is one of the senses, right? Like I'm talking right now. Anybody walking by can acknowledge a black man is speaking. Listening is when you understand what I'm saying. And so a lot of people, especially in my lifetime, my experience, they hear. And you'll come off because people will talk about what you sound like. When people say things, or you sound like that, that means they weren't listening to you, they were hearing. And that's what it sounded like. Listening takes deep time and focus. Usually you need to ask questions because you need to confirm the information you're receiving. This is all academic though. And remember, our community doesn't really champion academics. That's why most of us are first generation college graduates. Because we focus on work. And there's nothing wrong with work. Work is important. We all gotta work. You gotta earn your stripes. But it's how you work that changes everything. Like one of the things I can look back and I can say this with a smile is for most of my life, most of my professional career, take off maybe 5 or 6 years, I've genuinely appreciated and looked forward to every day and loved what I've done. I feel like a damn NBA superstar when I walk into a school. I just think it's sad that we don't recognize educators like that. I mean, back in the day, I feel like if you saw your teacher in the store or something, you were kind of starstruck, right? It did have that celebrity feel, like, what are they doing? You know, I don't know if kids still feel that way now, but I was always really hyped when I saw my teachers out, you know? But yeah, it's just on my heart to kind of share a little bit about that. The summer's been interesting. When people ask me how I'm doing, I don't say good anymore. It's not that I'm not doing good. Because no matter what you're going through, you learn as you're starting to deal with things. There's good in everything. Like you can be in a hospital dying. You can still have a good day. Maybe whatever you're struggling with that's killing you, maybe it wasn't going off as bad as it's been other days. Better day. Perspective. You know? But I've had a saying, I think I'm going to put it on a t-shirt. Maybe we can make that a fundraiser for her Just Inspire Mentoring. And it's chasing dreams, shaking nightmares. That's how I'm feeling. chasing the dream. Shaking the nightmares just says that those bad feelings and situations you're getting rid of. And you keep your mind focused on how to get that dream. Well, good night. I'm going to sit out here and catch some more of these night rays. I hope the words move somebody. And I hope it didn't offend anybody. Peace.